This morning host and soap expert Sharon Marshall has given fans fresh details about the much-awaited Coronation Street Swarla wedding, which was filmed earlier today. The ITV daytime program was present while Lisa Swain and Carla tied the knot on screen, and the storyline promises plenty of heartfelt moments. Sharon posted a behind-the-scenes snap with members of the production team on Instagram, expressing how wonderful the day had been and thanking the show for the invitation. She also revealed that viewers will be able to watch the complete wedding footage toward the end of April, teasing that the brides looked incredibly beautiful and that the touching script will have audiences both laughing and in tears during what she described as a truly joyful occasion. In a separate Instagram story, she summed up the ceremony with a single word, stunning, alongside 2 rainbow emojis. Speaking live on This Morning, she explained that the episode marks a groundbreaking moment in soap history, as it features 2 women marrying without any dramatic disasters interrupting the big day. Although the ceremony itself is set to unfold smoothly, the same date, 23rd of April, will reportedly spell tragedy for another character. A recent flash-forward hinted that one of 5 residents could meet a shocking end, and since then the show has scattered clues and misleading hints to keep viewers guessing. While visiting the set, Jonathan Howard, who portrays Carl Webster, one of the possible victims, gave an interview while still wearing visible bruise and injury makeup that hadn't been fully removed. He shared that his character becomes involved in several altercations, which makes sense considering the number of enemies he has made in recent weeks. This has led fans to wonder whether those visible injuries could be connected to his character's potential death scene. Coronation Street spoiler, Debbie reaches breaking point over Carl. Debbie finds Lou badly injured in her cell after an altercation with Paula. Later, when Sally, Brody, and the girls come to see Lou, they are horrified by the extent of her bruises. During a visit with Debbie, Carl plays on her emotions and eventually persuades her to hand over more money. Sally overhears their conversation and cautions Debbie that Carl is exploiting her generosity. Although Debbie quickly defends him, she can't ignore the nagging feeling that Sally may be right. Back in her cell, Debbie becomes increasingly anxious about her unhealthy bond with Carl, with the mounting pressure clearly affecting her well-being. When Ronnie learns that Carl has continued to squeeze Debbie for extra cash, it raises questions about how he will respond. Elsewhere, after being roused at the crack of dawn by Connie, a tired Carla, Lisa, Betsy, and Ryan are forced to consider whether these early starts are now part of everyday life. At the same time, as Steve and Cassie discuss Jim's funeral plans with Ben, Tracy suddenly realizes that Steve has no idea Cassie had been planning to propose to him. She must decide whether to reveal the truth or let him remain in the dark. Meanwhile, Christina announces that she has filed a police complaint against Annie for defamation. Matters take another turn when George is brought in for questioning regarding Annie's fraud accusation, leaving him utterly distraught. Finally, Adam's temper flares after he steps in dog mess and spots Jodie walking away with David the dog. He confronts her angrily, but with Harper's upcoming operation weighing heavily on her mind, Shona cuts him off sharply. In Coronation Street, Christina unintentionally deepens the crisis facing George, who is already under immense strain. As the town's dedicated funeral director, George has always centered his life on maintaining high standards. Sensitivity, respect, and confidentiality define Shuttleworth's, continuing the legacy established by his father. His strong sense of integrity makes the recent claims that he benefited from a client's will especially painful. Annie's revelation that her late mother left George money has unsettled him greatly. Although he is certain he acted properly, the mere suggestion of misconduct troubles him deeply. For someone who values his good name above all else, even suspicion is difficult to bear. His partner, Christina Boyd, approaches the situation very differently. While George becomes withdrawn under pressure, Christina responds with boldness, often masking tension with jokes. Attempting to ease the atmosphere, she casually quips that George seems to have a knack for charming elderly women into leaving him money. To her, it is obvious sarcasm, lighthearted and harmless. However, they are not alone when she says it. Mrs. Ripley, a prospective client, overhears the remark in full. For George, the moment is excruciating. Already feeling vulnerable, he reacts angrily and fears that rumors could quickly circulate around Weatherfield, damaging everything he has worked for. The situation worsens when Adam Barlow brings further troubling news. He informs George that Annie has officially instructed him to challenge her mother's will. The dispute has now moved beyond personal grievances and into formal legal proceedings, prompting Adam to advise George to secure legal representation immediately. Before George can fully absorb this development, Christina decides to intervene. Concerned that Mrs. Ripley might spread damaging gossip and harm the business, Christina arranges to meet her privately. She constructs a heartfelt narrative about George being devastated by the accusations. To strengthen the illusion, she pretends to take a call from an emotional George, portraying him as a man overwhelmed by unfair allegations and professional disgrace. At first, her performance appears effective, as Mrs. Ripley seems sympathetic and receptive. But then George unexpectedly arrives. It quickly becomes clear to Mrs. Ripley that she has been misled. There is no distress call and no devastated funeral director on the other end of the phone. Only Christina improvising a story. Offended and unimpressed, Mrs. Ripley firmly states she will not be using Shuttleworth services and distances herself from those she considers untrustworthy. With that, another potential client is lost and the pressure on George intensifies. Now facing possible court proceedings, growing suspicion, and the consequences of Christina's misguided attempt to help, George finds himself overwhelmed. While Christina's intentions may have been protective, her impulsive strategy risks causing lasting harm. With legal action pending, confidence in the business wavering, and speculation spreading through Weatherfield, George's previously solid reputation is beginning to falter. In a close-knit community, restoring trust once it has been questioned is no simple task. The pressing issue is whether George can regain control of the narrative, or whether Christina's efforts to shield him have instead created an even greater problem. Coronation Street hints at growing suspicion around Jodie in early ITVX installment. Tonight's episode of Coronation Street begins to show cracks in Jodie Ramsey's plans as Bethany Platt starts to feel increasingly wary of her calculating behavior. Could Shona's manipulative sister finally be facing scrutiny? In Wednesday's trip to the cobbles, Jodie becomes more daring. She winds up Brian Packham about his stolen rare book and then identifies a new chance to stir up trouble for Shona. While most residents remain unaware of her schemes, Bethany may eventually prove to be a serious obstacle. Earlier in the week, it was revealed that Jodie had broken into Bernie Winter-Allahan's house to cut her image out of a wedding photograph. She was also exposed as the culprit who sneaked into the cabin and took Brian's prized book. As Brian continues to worry about the theft this evening, Jodie mischievously hints that the missing book might only be the beginning, implying that further incidents could follow. Although others dismiss the burglary as minor, Brian is unsettled by her pointed comments. Later, Shona invites Jodie to Audrey's salon for a pampering session as a gesture of appreciation for her support since arriving in Weatherfield. Jodie relishes the spotlight when Shona raises a toast in her honor, but her satisfaction quickly fades when guests begin complimenting Shona and David as an ideal couple. When Shona removes her wedding ring during a manicure and leaves it nearby, Jodie notices it and begins forming a plan. Back at number 8, Shona becomes anxious after realizing the ring is missing. Jodie pretends to share her concern and offers to help search for it, yet Bethany observes the situation carefully and starts doubting Jodie's sincerity. As Jodie subtly makes Bethany feel like an outsider in the Platt household, unease continues to simmer, even if Bethany cannot yet fully explain her instincts. The question remains, will Bethany become Jodie's next victim, or will she be the one to expose what Jodie is really up to? Coronation Street is broadcast on weekday evenings at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1, with episodes also available to watch via streaming on ITVX.